So, it has been a while since I did a retrospective for Penalty All About. Now, granted, the history for that is, quite taxing for me. But I think it's not fair for my other projects to not have any retrospective whatsoever. At least a proper video retrospective. And given that it's almost 10 years since I first made this particular Fanime, I think now might be a good time to make a retrospective for my first ever weekly Fanime, Sour Candy-Filled Donuts. So, with the chapter title like that, you would think there'd be some original story tied to these yahoos, right? Well, no. It ain't the case. See, with the case of Deniska and Amopi, those two I just basically make like random ass designs that I made on MS Paint. And it was on my shitty ass netbook too. In the case with Adako. So, you remember the inspiration that I had from Oxan? Back when I used the Powerpuff Girls dolls that I have a blue wig on? So, Adako was basically a precursor to that, basically. Though at the time, her hair was a lot more saturated, and her name used to be called Ada. Now, Adako, Ada. Long before Sour Candy-Filled Donuts, these guys had, like, no connection to one another whatsoever. I will say that because I was a dumbass and heavily relied on Google Translate for when it comes to pronunciations, I pronounce Deniska's name as Denaiska because that's how the text-to-speech voice pronounced it. But after a Skype call that I had in the now gone Light Novel Brigade, where someone in the call was just like, yeah, I would not trust Google Translate for pronunciations, I have since changed that pronunciation to the now current pronunciation as Deniska. But yeah, other than that, really, I have not thought about these yahoos since those points of my life. Until 2015. So, after a whole ass situation within the Fanime community that I will not disclose due to the everything surrounding it, things around that point just kind of felt like ass. So due to that, as well as so many points of having to wait for VAs for Penalty About, I just was not in the best place, as you can say. That said, I did want to talk to someone at that point. It's more so that I would want some level of moral support. So I talked to one of the people who was not fully involved in the situation, but have their opinions dead set regardless. We chat in the Skype call, and from what I remember, I think we had a relatively, chill call, basically. That call was when I was learning about the fact that, Evan was planning to host for the Fanime Weekly Challenge, and it's, the first one of the bunch. That's right, Mr. Fanime Update himself has started this. You have him to thank and or blame. Now, I was kind of doing my own thing, since at the time, I wasn't exactly confident within my writing, at least when it comes to anything other than comedy. Now, granted, I think I'm still not good at it, but that's besides the point. But yeah, I have decided to repurpose characters like Deniska, Ada, who I later changed her name to now the more known Adako, and Amopi, and made Sour Candy-Filled Donuts. With this series, it's basically what I like to call Bad Luck Tuesday. And the reason for that is because of the fact that I decided to write these characters going through situations for no reason, while there's also very few moments of peace for these yahoos. So, you would think that this is what this would essentially what would have boiled down to, right? Well... So, there are a lot of things to note for this. For those that actually have seen the series, you might have noticed that I voiced every single character myself, right? Well, if you recall from my last retrospective, you'll know that I was developing trust issues when it comes to people turning in their lines. So fucking late! And sometimes not even turning in their lines at all. Essentially, I kind of just basically went with the every asshole for themselves mentality. Because I was not gonna have SCFD deal with the fucking VA issues. Another thing to note is that this is also around the time when I was very much stuck to my ways of doing things in a visual novel style format. This was around the time when it was like early on within my time within the Fanime community. But to make it less difficult for me, question mark, I was doing like a lot of flats with the line art being the color of the character's palette, except in a little bit of a darker sense, rather than the shitty ass soft shading that I was doing for my previous Fanimes, and some afterwards. Now, despite the fact that this would have been an easy way for me to get the series done as soon as possible, there were moments where the episodes were delayed. Firstly, back when I was still in a romantic relationship, I had to go and visit the person I was with at the time. So, like, an episode of Sour Candy-Filled Donuts had to be delayed. But, thankfully, the visit didn't last that long. Like, it lasted for, like, a couple of days. So, you would think that I would get back on my feet for, you know, being able to get the episodes out as soon as possible, right? Wrong-o. Because, friends, we gotta talk about Shadow Slayers! Woohoo! Okay, so a bit of a quick rundown for those in the back and probably don't feel like watching my previous videos about it. Shadow Slayers is like a post-apocalyptic fantasy roleplay hosted by Funny Buddy J, and it had over 12 people participating in the roleplay, and I was one of the people who would join in on the fun. Now, why am I even talking about this forum roleplay to begin with? So you see, that roleplay took over my life as well as the other people's lives. I mean, fuck, back when I had a job, like during Saturdays, I was trying my best to read the roleplay during my breaks on my fuck-ass BlackBerry phone because I wanted to see what happened next. I was that obsessed with it, guys. But yeah, due to that, there were a lot more delays for the episodes of Sour Candy-Filled Donuts. I, a goddamn maniac, decided to pull the ultimate crunch time and get like the last 3 episodes out on a weekend before the new year would have started. That's how utterly fucked my schedule was at the time, to be honest. Thank God I stuck with doing shit in a VN style format around that point because, Lord knows, I would have like died pulling the ultimate crunch time if I were to branch out into other styles of visual medium that with an MP4 format. But yeah, I know that like with the lesson in one of my previous videos, I said do not be active in a forum roleplay while making a weekly series and vice versa. And if I were to change this lesson for the youngins in the back, I just removed the forum part, but the overall lesson should be the same. Please, for the love of God, do not make the same mistake that I have made. Please! Sour Candy-Filled Donuts might not be one of the best series I have made in terms of story. Hell, like, within the series itself, it's not all that groundbreaking. It's just silly little yahoos just being in situations. But I will say, having that be part of the first Fanime Weekly Challenge is rather important to me. Because after that point, I was able to make 3 other weekly series for future challenges. Plus one self-imposed challenge that's basically for me and myself. Now granted, a lot of them I did in a VN style format, so I guess it shouldn't be too impressive, but it is something that I always appreciate. For those that watched it during the time when it was ongoing, thank you for sticking by and/or I'm sorry. Same goes for those that watched it after that point. I hope you all enjoyed your time with it, in some fashion. I hope you don't mind that this retrospective is not as long as the Penalty All About one, but that one doesn't have as much of a fucky type of history compared to the Penalty series. But with that, that is that. This is Chibijisi of YouTube signing out. Goodbye! Deniska and Adako, they got each other's back. But when they met a Mopi, their life has gone to whack.